Welcome back to Trans Guy Reacts, and obviously I'm going to react to the national championship game. Let's start off with offense sells tickets, defense wins games, rebounding wins championships. All right, Pat Summit, the great Pat Summit, said those words, and she's so right. And we look at this South Carolina versus Iowa game. South Carolina out rebounded Iowa 51-29. That's all you gotta say. That's all you gotta say. But I do want to go into some more depth and specifics about this game because it was really great. I did start the game off watching the pregame on ABC with Elle Duncan, Andrea Carter, Chinea Wumake, and Carolyn Peck, and Aaliyah Boston. I love those women together. It's usually Elle, Andrea, and Chinea, but they brought on Carolyn and Aaliyah for the Final Four in the championship game. So beautiful to see all those women with their basketball knowledge. All of them have played in either college or professional, and they really do have an understanding of like what is going on and the backstories and the context and the nuances. So really love to see that. Want to give obviously they were giving props to the WNBA players, Maya Moore, Cheryl Miller, Candace Parker, Breanna Stewart. All of them are Candace Parker and Breanna Stewart are still in the league. They were like giving some attention to Clark being one of the greats, but she is greats in college for sure. But we'll see about in the WNBA. Will she still be amongst those greats? I think she could be, but I don't think she will be right away. I do not think that she's going to do well when she first gets to the league because almost no rookies do well when they get to the league because they're with grown women who are all the best of the best. So we'll see what the transition is. I think it will be good. I think it will be she'll do well, but she's not going to be as effective as she is now. And then I did, at the same time as I was watching the live show, I was also watching the Bird and Tarasi show because it's a little bit more entertaining. No offense to Rebecca Lobo and Ryan Rucco, they're just boring. They always cover these games, every single important game in the women's basketball, they always cover it. And they also cover a lot of WNBA games. So I'm kind of just tired of seeing them. I'm tired of seeing Holly Rowe. They're all very nice, but it's just like, can we get some new blood in here? And that's why I really love seeing Elle Duncan, Andrea Carter, and Chinea and all them. So it's really good to see them. But they were so I watched the Bird and Tarasi show, and they had a lot of people on. It's so funny. Sue was wearing a sweater, a UConn sweater, because she is like UConn forever, even though they're out. They lost in the Final Four. But it was cool. They had a lot of cool guests on. They had Robin Roberts, they had Snoop Dogg, they had Neko Umake, they had Jalen Hurts, and they had Jason Sudeikis. So that was really dope. Snoop and Roberts, both of their commentary were hilarious. And I didn't realize Robin Roberts used to play basketball. I knew she called basketball games, but I didn't know she played in college. So that's pretty cool. They brought up a picture of her back in the day. But yeah, they were giving their commentary, and it was pretty funny. That first quarter was very like, ooh, what's going on here? Iowa was up 27-20 at the end of that first quarter, and but I wasn't too concerned. Iowa came out hot, but I was like, can they maintain this? They have like a 7-person rotation in their players, and I'm like, Don has 10 players, so and they all don't play the whole game, so and I would say like even the foul calls were a little bit questionable. They were really calling things really tight, and not letting South Carolina be like aggressive or like the defensive play that they like. There's a lot of offensive fouls that weren't called on Iowa in the beginning, but and like some ticky tack fouls I found that were like on Bree Hall and some other people. They were getting into foul trouble, so a little bit suspect, especially in the first half. But and even Don was like getting upset because it was just like, are you serious? Like seriously, a lot of ghost calls, people not even touching people and getting called for a foul. There's just a lot of things that were like very questionable. But during the second half, South Carolina adjusted, and so they weren't getting as many fouls called against them. And I think they just had to adjust to the play that in this game they were going to call things really tight and call phantom stuff. So like just give them space and just outplay them, and that's what they did. The first half they tied it. It was 36-36. And I think oh, sorry, no, it wasn't tied. I'm sorry. It was tied. They got it tied to 36-36 with like 4 minutes left in the second half. At that point, I was like, oh no, they're about to turn it on. And they did. South Carolina turned it on, and at the end of the half, they were up 3 points. It was 46-49. And I was like, okay, I think South Carolina is about to do what they need to do, and Raven Johnson came out and pretty much defended Caitlin Clark for the last 3 quarters. Did a great job. She had like 4 steals. It was crazy. She was like so locked in on her defense. Um, it was wild. And I like was looking at the stat sheet at the half. I was like, let me look at the box score here, and I saw that half of about half of Iowa's players had scored. So no, it was like no, not half. Sorry, only four of Iowa's players scored at the halftime point, and 7 had scored for South Carolina. When you have that kind of parity in the entire roster, it's just really hard to stop. And then in the third quarter, South Carolina came out. They came out hot. They started pulling away. They got up to 9 points. Iowa adjusted. They had to call 2 timeouts during that third and fourth quarter because they were like, "Oh crap, we're actually behind." So they were stressed. And then Tessa started going off, started hitting threes. It was great. Diana Taurasi was doing the most, saying the most hilarious shit. Darius Rucker from Hootie and the Blowfish were there, and she was like, "Hootie is hooting, Hootie is hooting," because he was like, he's a big Gamecocks fan, so that was pretty funny. And then at one point she even said like, "All I want for my birthday," and if you know that song, you know how it ends. And I knew Diana was funny, but I was like, damn, she is hella funny. I really need them to be on like every year. They need to be doing this kind of telecast. Like, I love the Burton Tarasi story. It was hilarious. So at the end of the third, South Carolina, it was 59-68. So South Carolina was up 9. They were doing the most. And then at that point, in the beginning of the fourth quarter, every person on South Carolina has scored. Every single person. 10 people on the team has scored. And only 5 had scored for Iowa. So Tessa had a freaking career high and the most points in the game. And that's crazy. Tessa Johnson is a freshman. Yo, she is a freshman. And they're only losing one player. They're only losing Camila Cardoso as a senior, and she's going to go in the draft, going to be highly favored. But I'm like, they're only losing one person. So next year, they're going to, oh my God, everyone should be scared. Everyone. It was crazy. At the last 20 seconds of the game, it was pretty much a wrap. They didn't even the last minute of the game, no one even played. Like the South Carolina had the ball with about a minute to go. They just ran the clock down. No, it was like 46 seconds ago. They ran the clock down and just let it in 30 seconds. And then they had like 20 seconds left. Gave the ball back to Iowa. Iowa had Molly Davis come in because she injured her knee or whatever. So they let her stand in the championship game for 20 seconds so she could put that on her resume, I guess. I don't know. I didn't think that was necessary. Kind of waste of time. But, that's great for her and her memories. But yeah, Iowa just bounced the ball out and let it expire, and oh my God, it was just so amazing. Literally Iowa didn't score for the last 4 minutes of that game. The last 4 minutes of that game. South Carolina's defense was amazing. Defense wins games, yo. Defense wins games. Offense sells tickets. Clark is great. She's a great person. She had 30 points. She had a lot of, and she almost had a double-double, but not quite. So, she is one of the best. Definitely, she's a good player. She's going to be, in the rafters for a long time in terms of, the stats and all that being great. Is she the GOAT? No. She is not the GOAT. Will she become the GOAT? Maybe. Time will tell. Hopefully she does. We'll see what she does in the W. I hope she becomes the GOAT. She brings a lot of eyeballs, so I want more eyeballs on the WNBA, so that's great if she does become the GOAT, but she's not the GOAT right now. She is just a really good player. The final of that game was 75-87. Okay, so South Carolina won by 13 points. Isn't that right? No, 7 plus 5? No, 12. They won by 12 points. I believe when LSU won last year, they won by 17 points. And I'm just Iowa's not a good team. Iowa had a really good, a fantastic player in Clark and a great facilitator to her other people in on the team, which made them great. But overall, as a team, they're not professionals. These players are not going to be going into the pros. They're not that good. It's just not that competitive. And if you look at the past at other Iowa people who've come out and did well, I think it was Megan Gustafson, and there was one other person, I'm sorry I'm blanking on that person's name, who had done well. It's always been one player. Their conference, it's just not that competitive compared to the ACC and the SEC. It just isn't, or the Pac-12, RIP. So it's just a really different kind of situation, and they produce a lot of good talent, but they're not going to be doing the numbers that they did like these past few years because Caitlin's not going to be there unless they find another Caitlin-like player. So anywho, Gamecocks win. The Cocks are on top. Cocks up. And they are now 38-0, undefeated. It was amazing. Dawn was freaking crying at the end, which I'd never seen her that emotional. I've never seen her really cry actually, and she could barely talk. It took her a while to get herself together, but of course, she had to like give props to God because God, Jesus, all that stuff because that's what they do. And then she had to give props to her coaching staff, which I really appreciate her doing. I also love that all of the coaching staff was wearing Gucci. Every single one of them was wearing Gucci. Amazing, amazing. What I didn't like at the very end of the game, the cameras were following Clark after the loss, and I'm like, why are you following her? The camera. Why are we giving her airtime? She lost. The losing team, they lost. They don't need to get airtime. I don't care. I care about the win. I was always for Gamecocks anyway, but I'm like, if the team wins, we don't focus on the losers. She's a loser. I'm sorry. She lost that game. She's a loser. I don't want to look at her. I don't care. I want to focus on the team that won, and they won the right way. They did everything right, but whatever. Post-game interview right afterwards, they talked to Holly Rowe talks to Pow Pow and Tessa Johnson, and I love how grateful they are, and they had really great responses about how the team works together, their culture, that it's a family environment, it's really supportive. I really appreciate their maturity and especially Tessa really because Pow Pow's older, but being able to talk to media and things like that. I have to say I have to imagine that all of the fans, you would hope that a lot of these new fans that are following Caitlin are following it because they love the game, but a lot of these fans are racist. Let's just be real, and they're, oh my god, Iowa fans are the rudest fucking fans. I did not like them being in the background and the way that they talked and made noise and like wasn't ideal. And they were the most they bought the most tickets because they assumed that I was gonna win again, and of course they emptied out the arena once South Carolina won, and I was like, good riddance. Good riddance. There was only maybe about like a third of the people in there that was actually for the Gamecocks, but whatever. Their great white hope lost, and oh well. I hope these like racist people and these religious people remember that Jesus was a Jew. Okay, he was a brown-skinned Jew, but history has whitewashed him, literally giving you paintings of him as a white person, which he was not. He was not white, but that is what you want to believe, and you want to believe all of you wanted to put this person on a pedestal, and she couldn't even win the championship. She had 2 times to win a championship, and she couldn't do it. So whatever. Dawn won her 3rd title in 2 and 3 years. Crazy. She ties Tara Vanderveer, who also has 3. And the crazy thing is, Tara Vanderveer used to coach her. She was her coach in the 1996 Olympic team. Wild. And then Dawn went on to also, start in the WNBA, which started because of the 1996 Olympic team, because they won. The WNBA started, and she played in the WNBA, and then she became a coach. She also coached the USA team and won gold with them as well. It's just like, what can't she do? What can't she do? I don't know. She can do everything. She's amazing. I love when they were like, they're on the stage and they're doing the championship presentation, and they talked to Raven, and she was like, yeah, this was my revenge season. I've been saying it all season. She's like, the revenge tour is over. Which was hilarious. I love that. I love her audacity. I love her confidence. She had 4 steals. That's crazy. She had 4 steals in the game, and most of them were against Caitlin, I think. So that's amazing. Dawn is such a good sportsman because, like, of course, she thanked Clark for building the game up and giving the attention that we had on the game. So she gave her respect to Caitlin, which I appreciate because she always does that. She's always, unlike other coaches, and you know who I'm talking about, she goes high. When other coaches go low, she goes high, and I fuck with that. Then the post game happened. They go to the ladies, the lovely ladies, the lovely sea of brown that I see, the shades of brown. And it was so funny because Aaliyah needed to run back. She was like celebrating with Dawn, so she had to run back, get mic'd up. It was pretty funny. They do cut to Rebecca Lobo and Brian Rucco, but I couldn't really focus on them because there was this white dude, this Iowa fan behind them, holding up a religious sign with like Roman something. I don't know. Very annoying, very distracting. And I would say the entire time that they did cut to Ryan Rucco and Rebecca Lobo, it was just annoying Iowa fans like doing the most, being like Iowa, doing like I get it. You're very excited, but it was like every time. And when they would do their shows outside with the Iowa fans, they're just like so loud and annoying. And every time they talked about anyone that they didn't want to hear, they would be like, oh, and then when they say anything Iowa, like drowning out the actual analyst, and I don't like that. I really don't like that. I'm sure that happens with other teams too, but it was just especially annoying from Iowa. Especially when I just see a sea of white people doing that, and it's mostly people of color talking. Very disrespectful. So I would prefer that they don't do that. They would have the analysts inside. Also, it's cold. It's freaking cold in Cleveland. Everyone was cold. Like, why are you making people like suffer outside? That was wild. Um, anyway, just kind of tired of. I want more eyeballs on women's basketball, but I don't like people jumping on the bandwagon who know nothing about basketball and don't even want to educate themselves about the whole thing, like all of college basketball or all of WNBA. They just like talk shit. They're just like, oh, but I'm a fan of Clark right now. I'm like, can you also be a fan of everybody else? Can you be respectful to all the other teams that are just as good or better? No, no. And that's why I don't really cover Caitlin Clark, because I'm like, everyone else does. I don't need to cover her. She got plenty of coverage. She fine. She fan. Anyway, and they go back to Malaysia. It's not Malaysia. They go back to the ladies. Chene, Elle, uh, Andrea, Carolyn, and Aaliyah, and they talked to Malaysia. And she's so mature for a freshman as well. Then Tessa came in, and then they interviewed her, and then Raven came on, and then Pow Pow came up. It was so funny, and it was just like this lovely shades of brown, so much brown, different shades of brown. It was beautiful. Always bet on black. So also to point out is the bench points. There was 37 bench points for South Carolina, and there were zero for Iowa. No one on their bench scored any points. And I don't know about you, but it's basketball. It's team basketball. Okay, it's the whole team. Can't just be one person doing all the things, and I think that's really really true in this game, in this situation. Of course, they interviewed Dawn by herself, and Dawn gave all the respect to her assistant coach Winston Gandy. He did the scouting report, and he went hard on it. Also to point out is Jolette Law, her other associate coach, went to Iowa. But she went to Iowa when Vivian Stringer, Vivian C. Stringer was the coach, who is like one of the best coaches of all time, and she retired out of Rutgers a couple of years ago. But that says, the greats coming out, right? But this was before Lisa Bluter, so I don't know if any affiliation with that. But Jolette Law is in the record books for Iowa, actually, so that's something to note. And then Dawn did mention in the post-game interview that Cleveland has a special place in her heart because she used to go to Cleveland Clinic when she was trying to figure out what was wrong with her, and she found out she had pericarditis, which is like when fluid like swells around your heart, and it gives you heart pain, chest pain, and stuff. So she has a really special connection to Cleveland because of that. So that was cool. And then afterwards, there's the post-game interviews from like the NCAA, March Madness kind of thing. And even in the press conference, Dawn starts out by thanking Clark and giving props to her for bringing eyes to the game. And then they had the players, and the players were so funny. Camilla, Raven, and Pow Pow. And it's so funny. Camilla thought she had a bad game, but she had a double-double. But she was like, I didn't play that well. And then Raven saying all the things. She's so funny. She's a hilarious person. And everyone on the team says that, and you can see it with her answers. I really love the things that she says. And then both Raven and Carmilla both described Dawn as like a mother figure. Like they go to her for everything, and it was really sweet. Carmilla started crying, actually, and I was like, ugh. I love it. I just loved it. It was beautiful. And then once the players left, they asked Dawn some questions, and she was, very polite and professional, but she did like kind of, in a way, kind of called out the media for not, really covering them. And like she's happy that Clark has brought this attention, but she hopes that it continues to happen after the season, that they'll still tell stories about all of the amazing women in the college game and not just forget about us, even in the off season as well. And I really appreciate her calling them out in a very nice way, the nicest way, but she just still called them out. But yeah, that was it. South Carolina beat Iowa, which most people knew that they would, although they were hoping for that great white hope. They were really hoping that this second time around she was going to pull it out, but South Carolina out rebounded Iowa 51-29. Offense sells tickets, defense wins games, rebounding wins championships. As the great Pat Summitt would say, you got to do all three. All right, and South Carolina did it, and they're the champions, and they deserve it. So all hats off to them. Very happy, very excited, and I can't wait to watch all of this like post game coverage. It's gonna be fantastic. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.